Phenomenal morning, phenomenal morning, phenomenal morning. Listen, guys, this is Sean Wright East, and of course, I'm phenomenally flanked by the geniuses, right? Bobby Jackson, Junior Frederick. We have been going live every single day from Wednesday, right? Or I myself have been going live every single day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and now Saturday again. So listen, guys, this is going to be a phenomenal intro, phenomenal show. Gentlemen, how are you guys doing? Talk to me. How's it going over there?
Doing well as usual, Sean. Doing well as usual. Right now we have a lot of heat, and the funny thing about heat is that heat creates amazing beach conditions. So, you guys, if you love the beach, I mean, everybody loves the beach when it's warm and when it's nice.
Oh man, love it.
But let me tell you something. That heat comes back in the form of storms and hurricanes sometimes. So everything has its upside and its downside, right? So right now, if I have to look outside, it's actually a little bit rainy. But that's because we've had so much heat over the last few days and few weeks. So I'm just here, just thankful to be here and just seeing what the weather brings, man. What about you?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable. Sun in the fun and sand with the brand. Bobby Jackson, how about you, sir?
Doing phenomenal. This morning went for my normal run, but it was cold. It was cold, and by cold I mean 52 degrees. So that's not cold to some people, but that's cold to me. And in 52 degrees, I was out there running with shorts and a t-shirt because I knew if I put on any more layers that I overheat, so to speak. So today's run was an interesting one because it was one that just tested the mental fortitude in a different way. And I ran longer actually than I normally do. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling responsible. That's how I'm feeling this morning. Like you woke up, you did what you needed to do, and you're starting your day.
Very good, very good. So I hope our listeners can glean the information, right? I hope they can glean the jewels and the I think it's invaluable information and resources, the hidden resources. What do you guys do in the morning? Put it in the chat. Put in the chat what you guys do in the morning. We've got Yolanda Cook. I think it was tagged. Tia Rogers tagged. Phenomenal. Michelle D. Clark is present. Phenomenal morning. Travis the Critic. Victoria D. Blocker. Listen, I don't want to leave anybody out. If I did miss you, it's because I'm not going to stay in the chats, guys, because we have a phenomenal venue to get into. And I think we're going to lean into the responsibility piece. I think we're going to lean into the responsibility piece. Who are you responsible for? What are you responsible for? And what responsibilities are you placing on yourself? What responsibilities are you placing on yourself? I think that's a great topic. And I also want you to think about how you do anything is how you do everything, right? How you do anything is how you do everything. So like I said, guys, we've been doing this every single day from Wednesday on. And if you haven't been with us during the week, I would strongly urge you to go back and look at those episodes because we're talking about timely conversation and timely topics. But I think today, Bobby, I think you kind of coined the phrase. I think we're going to be talking about responsibilities and what your responsibilities are. So as a leader, as a coach, speaker, consultant, as a provider, protector for your flock and for your family and for your future and for your legacy, before we even begin, I just want you to think, what are you responsible for? Who are you responsible for? And how have you attended to your responsibilities this day so far? Let's grow. It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
He's extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. I said Sean Ra'is. I'm proud. Sean Ra'is. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Sean, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes. All right. So if you can, guys, take a look towards your stream. Take a look towards your comments. I just put a definition in there of responsible. Bobby, if you could read that definition for us, please. Are you able to see that?
I am. Yes, I am.
Yeah. Let the people know exactly what the definition of responsible is.
Having an obligation to do something or having control over or care for someone as part of one's job or role.
So if you're a father, you have a responsibility. If you are a husband or a wife, you have a responsibility. And everybody here is a son or a daughter as well. And I just want to ask you, and I want you to think about what your responsibility is to the people that are entrusted into your care and provision. And we're just going to start right there, and we've got the latest entrant into fatherhood. Junior Frederick, talk to us about your experiences as a newly minted, newly crowned father and what that feels like, what that responsibility feels like.
Ooh, Sean, that's a big one, man. But let me tell you that definition is pretty powerful. Something that I noticed, right, just looking at that definition. Some part of the definition says having control over or care for someone or something. And as a newly minted father, like you just said, I could honestly say that one of the best days of my life was the day when my son was born. And the care, the consideration is just love. There's no higher word that I can think about when I think about care, consideration, etc. But the feeling is, if I had to put a word on it, I would say dutiful. I would use the word duty. To me, duty represents an obligation, but it's not the kind of obligation where you feel as if, I have to do something. This kind of obligation is where you get to do something. So, like how a lot of people say, well, I have to go to work today, or I have to do this for the business, or I have to do that, or I have to do this. I would challenge most people to change their language and say, instead of I have to do something, say I get to do something. You get to go to work today. You get to work on your business today. You get to service that client today. You get to be a father. You get to be a mother. Not everybody has that privilege and that duty and that honor. And of course, if you're on a purposeful path, then some of us, we believe that we have a duty to God. So a duty or responsibility for a child, a son or a daughter, is very similar to a purposeful relationship where you feel as if you don't, it's not like you owe somebody something. You don't owe them. It's not that feeling, but it's like you want to give to them. It's love. It's
Mm,
love. And when you look at leadership, I would say that I would describe it as servant leadership, the highest form of servant leadership. That's what it feels like to me.
very good. Very good. Listen, guys, share this out. Share this one out because I guarantee you I feel something special coming on. Go ahead, Bobby. What do you have to add to that?
Oh, I've been taking notes all morning. Oh, how many minutes are we in? What, 12 minutes in, and I already
12
got a
minutes
page.
in. Let's go.
And I've already got a page, man. So I've been reading this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Y'all are going to hear about this for the next probably 2-3 weeks until I'm finishing, because I read a certain way. And when I read, I dive. And when I dive, I extract and excavate, and I've been excavating some things, and I want to lay it out for you guys just really briefly. So what I love about this author's definition or breakdown of responsibility, and I gave this to a client of mine, and I might bring in a little bit of how I broke this down for them. But he says that when you think about responsibility, the best way to do this is to break it up. He says, break up responsibility into response ability, your ability to respond. And he then goes into what a responsibility can mean when you're being proactive. So a lot of times we don't want to take ownership of because we don't have the ability to respond to the obligation if we take ownership of it. I'll say that differently. Some things we could do in our lives if we could only take ownership of it, but because we don't have the tools to respond to the obligation if we were to take ownership over it, we pass the blame to someone else. So when we really think about responsibility, it's a deep thing. When we think about fathers that don't take care of their children, so to speak, it's because they lack the ability to respond to the obligation. And if they lack the ability to respond to the obligation, they pass the responsibility to someone else because of their lack of ability to respond. So it's so much power in this term responsibility, but I'll leave you guys with this. Proactivity, the ability to be proactive, is your ability to expand your sphere of influence based on your ability to take ownership of the things around you. And so many people's sphere of influence is so small because they don't have the tools to take responsibility. So I think that a coach in any aspect of your life is absolutely necessary because they give you the tools you need to respond. And the last thing I'll say about my run this morning is I haven't slept since yesterday. I was up all night. And when 5 o'clock rolled around, I had an obligation. I'm doing 2-a-days, and I said I need to do these things, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. So I could have laid back down, but because I've had fortitude, tenacity, grit, discipline, and all of these other skills, I had the ability to respond to the obligation.
Powerful, powerful, powerful. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, guys. So response ability, having the ability to respond. Bobby hasn't slept, right? Junior's a new father. Guys, share this out again, guys. I'm gonna ask you again. Be responsible to the people that you shepherd. Until you begin sharing positive, phenomenal, energetic, energizing information with your audience. Oh, let me just say, caveat, everybody has an audience. Rochelle, you have an audience. Michelle, you have an audience. You have an audience. Daryl, you have an audience. Share this out to your audience so that you can start to become the shepherd for them. It's okay. Don't worry about us being the catalyst. They will continue to come to you and your page for more inspiration, more motivation, and more domination, more positive encouragement and energy. Okay, guys, so the ability to respond. Bobby, you said something that was absolutely groundbreaking, and I hope everybody caught it, but I want to put it under the microscope just in case they didn't. You said a person that doesn't have the ability to respond shirks or passes on the responsibility to someone else. because they don't have the ability to respond. And I can remember when my first son was born, so long ago. Where has the time gone? I got all these newly minted fathers around me. Where has the time gone? Okay, so I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to do something because I was closer to the younger end, right? And I said, I don't have the ability to respond efficiently. So I had to do something. And for those of you who don't know, that was my first entrance into college. Like I started going to college, then I didn't finish because the responsibility became too much and I needed to earn immediately. Like it wasn't, I didn't have time. Guys, pay attention to this. I didn't have time in the moment. The moment to produce came, and because I did not already create the skill set to respond and tried to kickstart the responsibility and be able to do it then. So watch this. When the time is needed to execute a skill, if you don't already have it, you're in trouble. If you don't have the skill, when it's time to respond, you're in trouble. This is why we wake up and work out, because we never know what the day is going to behold. We never know what's coming. This is why we hone our skills. And this is why we're also praised and acknowledged in the light for the work that we do in the dark. Very important for you to understand. Your time for the skill set that you're going to need next week is not next week. Your time to develop that skill is last year. So I tell people all the time, the best time to have planted a tree was 10 years ago, so you could be sitting in the shade now. The next best time to plant that tree is right now, so you can sit in the shade 10 years from now. A lot of us, being fourth generation, third generation free, right? We haven't learned. It wasn't generationally handed down. And this is why we have first-time authors, first-time business owners, first-time college graduates, first-time millionaires within our family, first generation, because those skill sets weren't passed down. And I always say that we don't get to choose who our parents were. Like Junior didn't have the ability to say, this is what I want my father to be passed down to me. He couldn't say that. He couldn't say that. He was born into a family without choice. So we don't get to choose who our parents will be or should be, but we get every opportunity to respond with the ability and choose who our children's parents will be based on the skill set that we build in ourselves consistently, so that when the need arises, we have the ability to respond ably. Very important. Very important. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Junior, stack your dollars. Stack your dollars from now. Make your investments from now, right? Get the skill sets from now, which I know you're doing, because the demand for your responsibility is going to go up and up and up. I know sometimes you have new parents and they'll be like, oh, the cost of Pampers, the cost of milk. And I'm like, don't even worry about that. The cost of college, the cost of, you understand, the cost of clothes, the cost of all of the other things. And this is why entrepreneurship is so important, because with every responsibility comes an added zero. With every responsibility comes an added zero. So watch this. Junior is not only a father, he's also a son. And I can remember in my youth, now my father was gone when my first son was born, but when my first son was born, now I have the mother of the child, I have the child, and I have my mother at the same time, and I have the parents of that person. Think of your responsibility. Think of your multiple responsibilities. How many skills do you think you need in order to respond ably to the real demands? This is why people shirk, Bobby. This is why people pass the buck, right? And some people say the buck stops here. I literally say I am the buck, because we don't get the option to pass it off. When you accept responsibility, Michelle, Rochelle, the people watching this right now, Daryl, we don't have the ability to pass off the responsibility. We have to put it on our shoulders and stack and layer the skills and the activity. So how do you respond to responsibility? Activity. I want you to ask yourself a question. Am I active enough? Am I generating enough? Do enough people know my name? Do enough people feel my presence? So that when the time comes, and that time might be now, am I able to respond to the demand? Because what did Spider-Man say? To he whom much is given, much is required. Think about your requirements. Think about your responsibility. Think of everybody that you're responsible for. How are you feeding them? How are you preparing yourself to be able to take care of those responsibilities? We'll be right back. Let's grow. The reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaway just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
Business is like a game of chess. It's not checkers. If you don't know how to lead with a personal brand, then you're losing the battle.
Everything about Sean's talk was fantastic. I mean, I got so much from it.
So he was really bringing fire and passion and just love and spirit to let everybody else know how do you become a leader amongst the leaders.
You hold the key in your hand. There is more power in this phone than there was that took the first man to the moon.
His energy, his dynamic information, gave a really great presentation.
I didn't ask for any money. I didn't have an offer. I had a heart to help people and meet them where they were at and find their need and fulfill it.
Sean is the bomb.
All right, let's get into it. Somebody take that mic and let's grow. Let's go. Let's get into it. Who's going to go first?
All right, Sean. So I'll go first. So I wrote down a couple notes while you were speaking. And one thing that we used to say in the past is, and this is just a saying, right? Make no apology, take full responsibility. So make no apology, responsibility. That's something that we used to say back in the day. And when I think about what Bobby was saying with the whole situation of, people not stepping up and doing what they're supposed to, I was sort of, I guess, self-analyzing and asking myself, I think everybody can remember, like, where were you when you first found out you had a son on the way, right? And I'm like, okay, what was my reaction in that moment? And I think I was okay. I was fine. And I'm asking myself, why? Why was I okay? And then, so many may not have been like that. And I'm asking myself, okay, what is the mental model? What is the mental tool, right? I think it all comes down to mentality. So some people believe that they're going to get rich by saving more money. I look at the same situation and I say, I don't need to save more. I need to make more. You know what I mean? If you have a child coming, you don't need to save more money. You need to find a way to make more money. So I think that responsibility is a prerequisite of power. Now, when most people think about power or they think about leadership, sometimes they think about a negative connotation. But if you really stop to think about it, power is the ability to influence not only other people, but also other circumstances around you. So if you want to control where you live, to some extent, you're going to have to be powerful. If you want to control where you vacation, to some extent, you will have to be powerful, make yourself powerful. And the first step to any form of power is taking responsibility. If you walk into a room and let's say there are 10 people sitting in a room and nobody's saying anything, the leader often crowns themselves by being the first one to speak. So you walk into a room, everybody's sitting around a desk, nobody's saying anything. The leader often crowns themselves like, hey guys, what are we doing here today? What are we going to work on? John, what are you good at? Bobby, what are you good at? Or let's work on this. Bobby, you work on that, and I work on, so they normally take responsibility for the situation, and they sort of, stick their flag in the ground and say, okay, I'm the leader now. I'm in charge, right? And that is the first step. You have to take responsibility in order to be a leader. The funny thing is, each and every single one of us are leaders. So if you're listening to my voice right now, you are a leader in various areas of your life. The only question is, when are you going to recognize your leadership? At what point do you take responsibility for your leadership? And for me, I think it's just courage. So it's courage, it's anti-fragility, which is something that I use a lot these days. And to break it down, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically not being able to break under pressure, but taking the pressure and letting it mold you into a diamond. So if you're in a situation right now where you need to take responsibility, the responsibility is your power. That's literally your power. Whoever has the power is the one who took the responsibility. And that's my thoughts on that.
Bobby, go ahead. What you got?
Man, that was a lot, Junior. I took
That was.
I took copious notes. One thing that I really love was responsibility is a prerequisite to power, and power is like a force that allows you to live the life that you want to live. So I just thought that was remarkable. For me, what I've been thinking through as we've walked this out is value and confidence, because before you take responsibility of something, most people want to feel confident in their ability to do it. And not always will you be, say, confident in the outcome, but if you're confident in your abilities not to quit or your resilience, that's enough. And I found that no father knows how to be a father when the child is born. We become fathers, but there are certain individuals that may not have the confidence that they need to take on the responsibility to respond to the obligation. And if they don't have the confidence that they need to take ownership and responsibility, they end up passing the buck, which means a lot of this has to do with value, intrinsic value, self-worth. Because when you look within yourself and you value yourself and you have confidence in yourself because you do what you say you're going to do, no matter how large or big the obstacle is, you have enough confidence in yourself to take ownership of it. And if you have the skills that we've been talking about and the tools that we've been talking about, it increases your confidence. As Coach Sean Raiz has said for years, competence leads to confidence. The more competent you are, the more equipped you are, the more skilled you are, the more confident you are. So I thought that was one thing that I wanted to lean into before I dive into the question that Coach asked us before we went to the break, which was, how do you respond to responsibility with activity? So that made me ask myself, what are you doing? What am I doing to take responsibility of my life? I wrote that question down last night. I said to myself, my life is my responsibility. And once I wrote that down, I said to myself then, okay, if my life is my responsibility, then what can I do? What do I have to do? And the next kind of logical thought was, I have to take action to develop my abilities because my life is my responsibility. And then by the end of it, I kind of wrote this piece down. It's before you can lead others, you have to be able to lead yourself. So I was having all of these thoughts last night as I'm writing and taking notes and reading this book. It had us talk about developing your own personal philosophy. But as I tie this up, my philosophy boiled down to one sentence to a degree, kind of like my mission statement for life as of today. And it is pass through and leave value. And the idea is that we're all passing through life, like we're on borrowed time. You don't have forever. Like it's coming to a close. So don't try to hold on to the ups. Don't get stuck on the downs. Don't get all uptight over little things. Like pass through life, but leave value. And I think that you leave value behind in the form of leaving hope. And I wrote this down. I'm not going to hit them all, but I said the best way I can live my life is if I leave behind hope, tools, solutions, perspective, wisdom, and stories. Like if I pass through life and I do a good job and I develop myself and I take responsibility and I leave behind something for the next generation to pick up on and live a little bit better with, then I can say I did. I did all right. I lived well. And I think that that's a part of taking responsibility.
Wow. Wow. Sometimes I'm almost speechless, right? Sometimes I'm almost speechless. I love what you said when you said passing through and add value. I had another concept I wrote down before then, but you brought something to my mind when you said that, because I too live my life with a thought towards the next generation and a thought to, I think we all give a thought towards legacy, at least as we begin to mature. We think of other people and we think of legacy and what we will leave behind, right? And I think that's why in our youth we're so adamant to express ourselves and get something done, because depending on where you come from, you don't see a long runway, right? Depending on where you come from, you don't see a very long runway. So you're very active, and sometimes they call it overactive, or you might be overreaching to get something done, or you feel like you're doing something on borrowed time when you see people leaving early and prematurely. But one thing that I wrote down, and I'm so glad that you said what you said, is morals, values, and principles. Morals, values, and principles, because when I think of my presence and the present, the gift of being here and passing through, and what I want to leave behind, more than money, guys, but I want to leave behind more than possessions or principles, more than valuation, values, more than money or material, meaningfulness and morals, morality. Now, why? Why is morals, values, and principles more important to me to leave behind than valuation, materials, and possessions? And it's because with the right morals, values, and principles, possessions are infinite. Possessions are infinite. Money is infinite. Like money is a byproduct of value created. And this is why I say brand you and add a zero to you, because if you can add a zero to you, then you can add a zero to everything around you. The Midas touch is morals, values, and principles. If you live your life a certain kind of way, you can't help but to be abundant. You can't help but to have more than you ever thought possible. You can't help but to be able to bestow gifts upon people. It becomes bigger than you. So smaller people, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, psychologically. That's what I mean when I say small. Smaller people who think in terms of material, in terms of valuation, in terms of money, in terms of possessions. They're concerned with what can I get for me, which is the lower level of leadership, those who can lead themselves. When you begin to expand your mind and expand your possibilities, expand your skill sets, you go into a level where you can not only create material or possessions or become an ATM machine and speak money into existence, but you can empower others to print money on demand. Right? You can empower others who never thought it possible. You can give them a moral, a value, a principle, and they can turn around and exercise that moral value and principle into cash collected, into receipts, into clients, into compensation, into commerce, into material possessions in abundance. And then there's another level of leadership and another level of exertion. And we call that 3D. That's dominating to the third person. Write it down. 3D, dominating to the third person. See, because if I add value to Bobby the right way and show him this magic skill to print money on demand, to create value, and to create material possessions, if I do it the right way, then he can teach someone else to do it. And that's the third person. And if he does it right, then he can touch the fourth person and the fifth and the sixth and beyond. And if I can teach it to my children the right way, then not only will they be able to teach it to their children, but every single person that they come into contact with.
Well, Sean, when I think about vision, mission, morals, values, principles, and why they're so powerful, it's because of this one phrase. It said that we've when we think about the world, right? Most people, they think about the world as this globe, this sphere, right, floating around in space. But if we really think about it, the world is really and truly just a collection of ideas. The earth is a sphere, okay? But the world is a collection of ideas. So when we change the world, essentially we change the ideas in the world. So it's said that the earth has been around billions of years, but the world has changed several different times.
Yes, it has.
We really think about that. So what really changed? It was the ideas that changed.
That's right.
And what a lot of companies are doing that most entrepreneurs may not even know. I'll give you an example. Let's say company like Mitsubishi. I think they have like a business plan for 350 years or 500 years. They have listen, guys, they have a 500-year business plan. Like, think about that. They have a 500-year business plan. Most people are trying to do like a 5-year plan. What's my 5-year plan?
That's right.
And there are companies, there are people. When we say companies, you mean people. There are people that are thinking about the next 500 years. How can I impact the next 500 years of human existence? So I would say the reason why these things are so powerful, and some time ago I started writing down, what are my actual beliefs? What do I actually believe in? I started writing it down in a book. Like, what are my beliefs? What are my morals? What do I care about? If I had to pass down a lesson, what would it be? Something that would, I can be used by my great grandson. I started writing
Yeah.
this, and this is so powerful because the world is just a collection of ideas. And if you could get your ideas to proliferate through time, then technically you can change the world. Like I was telling somebody the other day on a coaching call, the whole idea of like going to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. That's just the idea. I think it was either JP Morgan or Rockefeller, one of them. They came up with that idea. Somebody sat down in an office, right? And they're like, okay, we need people to work. What's the best work schedule? I think people should work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We'll give them the weekends so they can be with their families and get a energy, and then they come back the next week. Listen, one man sat down and he thought about that. And today we have so many people still following this thing, so blindly today.
Mm.
An idea, he's long gone. Whoever came up with it, he's long gone. But he still sort of lives on through his creation. So it becomes the whole type of dichotomy when we look at creation, right? When we look at things, just the nature of things. So, for example,
Where does he live?
Excuse me?
Where does he live? You just said something. Where does he live? Where does he live? If he's long gone, but he still lives, where does he live?
Obviously, he lives in the mind of whoever believes in his idea.
Come on. He lives in the minds of others.
That's
Because
right.
when you ask a person, what is your goal? They'll say, I want to get a better job.
That's right. So Sean, I'll pass this over to Bobby in a minute. What I was about to say was there's this whole sort of dichotomy kind of thing where is the okay, so let's look at Shakespeare, right? And let's look at one of his plays, right? One of his pieces. Is it Shakespeare in the piece or is the piece in Shakespeare? You know what I mean? So it is the artist creates the art, but at the same time, the artist is the art or is part of the art. But then at the same time, he's not. So even if he's not here today, it's still technically him. It's still his idea. It's still his mind that is continuing to move forth and impact and influence society, people, things, ideas, etc., etc. So then when we look at generational wealth, for example,
Please.
when we look at generational wealth, to me, generational wealth is not just currency, because currency goes up, it goes down. Okay, if you have dollar bills in your pocket right now, it goes up, it goes down. That's called forex. But generational wealth is the knowledge, the lessons, the principles, the ideas that could get somebody to that place, that could help you to embody the self-image and the mindset of the person that can sustain that wealth.
Bobby, I think that was your cue.
I think so. I'm still writing notes. Keep crushing it, Junior. Killing it. So thank you for this morning.
Amazing.
I'm getting all my notes down so I don't miss nothing. Okay, I'm all set. Wow. What I got to thinking about was a post that I put up yesterday. And ironically enough, this post got no love, guys, like 0. I love it, though. I love it because there's this term out there that says, for those that can hear, let them hear. And the way I phrased it, I don't think they were able to hear it. But because you're watching this right now, so here's a great opportunity to share this out. Please share this out because what I'm about to say, I believe, is simply profound. And I believe it was, oh man, I forget his name. Da Vinci, who said the greatest form of sophistication is simplicity. The highest form of sophistication is simplicity. Da Vinci. So here it is. The best way to live forever is to live for once. I posted that. And I'm going to say that one more time. The best way to live forever is to live for once. So many of us aren't living. We're scared. We're not taking risks. We're not jumping out there. We're not putting it all on the line. We're trying to live forever today, when the best way to live forever is to die every day. Well, that's what the good book says anyway. You know, there's a book out there that says die daily. Those that die daily have a longer lifespan. Hear me. Those that die daily have a longer lifespan. All right, I'm gonna leave that alone. But if you live for once, you will realize that you live longer. And I want to break out this dying to self piece because it's so poetic. So when we think about people like Christ, they literally died and they still live on today. When we think about people like Malcolm and Martin, they literally died. When we think about people that were dying, so to speak, inside, I forget his name, Nelson Mandela. I cannot imagine how he felt year after year after year in prison for nothing, like for nothing. But his name will live on ever in certain communities, right? And what's so powerful about this is that we can get so caught up in trying to, oh man, I'm gonna give it to you guys like this. We can get so caught up in trying to give value that we forget to become valuable. Hear me out. I used to do this, so I'm gonna talk to myself for a little bit. I was so preoccupied with being perceived as valuable that I was trying to give value. And when I tried to give value with that preoccupation in mind, I alienated the other person's right to receive what I had to say. Please hear me. When you shove something down someone's throat, trying to get them to take it in because you want to feel valuable, you're projecting. You're taking your lack of self-worth and you're shoving something that you find valuable in your mind down someone else's throat who might not want it. And then you're calling it valuable. And then you get upset when people aren't perceiving you the way you want to be perceived. And what I've realized is that just be valuable. Be valuable. Show up valuably. And when you show up valuably, what you do is you don't alienate or transgress on the other person's right to receive you. But when you try to give value sometimes with the wrong intentions or without the right paradigm, you can be more destructive than you are constructive. So the last thing that I'll say with this is the greatest people lived for one purpose, one time, one objective. Like when you think about Christ, he was living in a time where vices were galore, all types of things was going crazy. His purpose was to do A, B, C. He lived in a time where the Romans would crucify you if you did A, B, C, and he lived in that time. When you think about Ali, he said, I'm not going to war. He lived in his time. They wanted him to go to combat. He says, I'm not fighting your war. I don't believe in what you're doing. I'm not going. He had one objective, box. And that's living for once. Like pick something, choose. I struggle with this, guys. And that's why I'm so passionate about it. Because it's like, I know if I can overcome this thing, as fickle as I can be, oh my goodness, anybody can do it. Anybody can do it.
I'm just going to ask a question before we go to the break, guys. What is your dominant idea?
I don't talk theory. I don't talk hyperbole. I don't talk opinion. Nothing I talk is anything but evidence-based.
During the G-Circle retreat in Atlanta, I had the pleasure and the honor of listening to Mr. Sean Raiz. He will not only impact your organization, but he will elevate your team to another level.
When you change you, when you put you into the equation, the whole system is different. I guarantee you, you got the right thing. You are the right person. If you can present yourself in the best way possible, there's no negotiation.
His energy is infectious, and I have so many takeaways from the presentation that I can't wait to get started and implement them today to see the result.
I said Sean Raiz. I'm proud. I said Sean Raiz. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Sean, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So put it in the chat, guys. What are your thoughts about this this topic that we're talking about and how it works? Like, what are your thoughts? Put it in the chat. Let's get a little bit communicative, right? And if you don't know, that's why that link is on the bottom. That link is on the bottom. I would urge you strongly to take that link out, put it in another browser, and register for it, because that's a meeting after the meeting, right? So after the Breakfast with the Brand, there's a debriefing. So that's for the debriefing after the call. So if you take that link, if you take that and you put it in a browser, then you'll be able to come on the back end and sit with us for a moment while we kind of debrief and go deeper into the topics, go over the topics before we close out the actual Breakfast with the Brand. This is the breakfast. And I guess that's like the dessert. That would be like the dessert or the buffet, right? The buffet after the breakfast would take place in the brand mentorship. So go ahead, take that out, put that in your browser, register for that, and we'll see you on the back end after we conclude. There was something that Junior said about the idea piece. And Bobby said something as well that made me think. He said that Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for nothing, but he was imprisoned for the idea. He was in prison for the idea that he had, the future, the vision. He was in prison for the vision that he had, and the vision became a mission afterwards. And that's why he was led to the presidency, because you cannot kill an idea. You can get rid of a person. You can try to wipe out a people, but you cannot crush an idea. That's the power of Gandhi. That's the power of who we call Christ. That's the power of Mandela. And I left with this thought. I said, what is your dominating idea? And please don't be so shallow as to think that we're not talking about business. Please, please, please don't be so shallow as to mistake yourself and think that we're not talking about business, we're not talking about branding, and we're not talking about how to add a zero to your revenue, because this is the key to adding exponential zeros to everything that you touch. Money being the least important. Money being the least important. You will add a zero exponentially to your economy when you get your psychology correct. And this is what we're talking about. We're talking about ideas. So what is your dominating idea? And I said something in the video that you just saw. And that's why I continue to play these videos. I said something in the beginning. I said that leadership wasn't the brand they made for us. See, there was a dominant idea where I grew up in Harlem. The dominant idea was that we don't live to 17. And if we do, we're plagued with multiple vices, multiple threats to our existence. That was the dominant idea. The criminality, black male. You understand? Like it's real serious where I come from. It's real different. But I had a dominating idea, and that dominating idea was to change the face of leadership, at least to expand it or diversify it or add to it. Because the dominant idea that existed wasn't correct. It wasn't comfortable for me, nor my children. If you remember, I say when I was in college, I thought about leadership and I couldn't see a representation that looked like them
or me or ours or us. So I had to change I had to shift the actual undertaking of my college program to go in deep into leadership. And this is why we have 3 master's degrees. And this is why we're in 2 doctorates, because the goal is to change the narrative. What is the narrative? The narrative is the dominating idea. There's a dominating idea. There's multiple dominating ideas, and there's probably a dominating idea that you don't agree with right now. There's probably a dominating idea that you don't agree with right now. It doesn't align with your character, morals, values, principles. And you're like, what does disruptive mean? Disruptive means speaking your truth. What does innovative mean? Innovative means leaning into your truth. What does alignment mean? Being on target at all times. Not leaning to the left or leaning to the right. Not wavering. Yes. It's not easy being the one sole voice of reason in an unreasonable reality. What is your dominating idea? People say, what should my business be? I've got all of these different ideas. What should my business be? What is your dominating idea? What does your soul tell you? What does your heart tell you? That's the A, B, and C that Bobby was talking about. The one thing. What is your one thing? When you do the one thing right, you can do 10 million other things. So yes, we do the books. Yes, we do the speaking. Yes, we do the consulting. Yes, we do the coaching. But at the core, is leadership. What is your core? What is your dominating idea? And there was one more thing. I'm sorry. There's so many different places that we've gone this morning. Courage, commitment, confidence, and competence. Courage, commitment, because somebody said, how do you build confidence? And you have to have a commitment first. What are you committed to? That no matter what happens, you're going to get this done. No matter what happens, you are aligned. You are 1000% committed. Most people don't have commitment. What they have is they have chances and change and opinions and emotions. So they begin something and then they don't finish. They don't do it long enough to get any good at it. And this is why they lack confidence, because they never had enough of a commitment to build the competence. And in order to make a commitment, you got to have courage. You got to have the courage to make the commitment and keep up with the commitment, because things are going to get hard for you in business. People are going to quit on you in business. People are going to challenge you in business. Banks are not going to fund you in business. You have to find the intestinal fortitude. Interesting. Brother used to say testicular fortitude. I'm going to say intestinal. You have to build the intestinal fortitude to drive forward through the walls of resistance that will oppose your dominating idea. And this is how you're going to know if it's disruptive enough. And this is how you're going to know if it's phenomenal enough and world changing enough, is because you're going to get resistance and you're going to be scared to death. You're going to be scared. It's not going to feel comfortable. Everybody's going to go against you. Everybody's going to look at you like you're crazy, like they looked at Einstein, like they looked at the Wright brothers, like they looked at Columbus, like they look at us. Why are you writing another book, for God's sakes? What do you mean you've been in 3 states in the last 4 days, or 4 states in the last 3 days? How is that even possible? Why are you spending more money? Why are you investing more money? Because you see something, you have a vision that no one else can see. And this is how you become a person that no one else can be. And this is why you have a reality that no one else can see. I hope you guys put that link in the in another browser, and I hope we'll get to see you on the other end. If not, you might want to replay this a couple times to pick up what we're trying to put down. And if not, we'll see you next week. I'll see you on Monday. I think me and Bobby will see you on Monday, but we'll definitely see you next week. Same time, same place. Let's grow. It's the Breakfast with the Brand. I'm just a kid from Harlem who God chose to show his favor. Themselves while improving the lives of others.